Alright guys, so there's my top 5 tinders. Number 1 being thistledown, 2 being grass seed heads, 3 birch bark, 4 cedar bark, and 5 lighter knot. Now that's without any processing. And the reason why I chose this order is these two do not require any processing whatsoever. Birch bark can require some. Cedar bark requires quite a bit more than birch bark, and lighter knot requires quite a bit more than everything else on this list. However, as they go down, the more you process them, the better they get. So if I had any kind of, if I had any unlimited amount of time, a sharp knife, then I would go for the lighter knot. But it can also be harder to find than these others because of just the area that you might be in. So thistles are everywhere, and so is grass. So these two to me are the number 1 and 2 that I'm going to be looking for. All of these others kind of are, I'm rating them based on how much time they take to process into appropriate tinders. As this list goes down, they also become better kindling. So you've got these tinders 1 through 5. You could go right back up this list in the opposite order and name them the top 5 kindlings based on just their surface area. These two really aren't worth a darn for kindling because they are so thin. But kindling anything from pencil lead size to pencil size, kindling is great. And then as soon as you get to about your thumb, that's more of a fuel sized size element there. So in my opinion, this is just Dan Bickett's opinion, but these are the top 5 tinders you're going to find, at least in the area that I'm in right now. Take that for what it's worth. A couple of the other things you can look at are dog fennel, which you've seen me use before. There's several vines with the real fine hairs that wrap into the tree or whatever connecting surface they're on. I've seen some ivies do that, and I've seen Virginia creeper do that. I haven't ever seen the water vines, what we call water vines. They're a smooth vine, but the vines I'm talking about have those real fine hairs that attach to the trees or the concrete or whatever they're climbing up. But if you rip those hairs off, they're usually going to be dry because they're high up in the tree, and they also make a very good tinder. So you can look for those as well. So we'll call them honorable mentions. Dog fennel and vine hairs, because there's several different varieties of vines that have those hairs on them. So you can just look for any kind of vine with a bunch of hair on it, and that makes a pretty good tinder as well. Not as well as these other 5 though, I don't feel. I think they've got the surface area for it. These both do, but all of these others, these two have a lot of surface area, more than these, okay? That's why they make such good tinder. All of these others right here, the lighter knot, the cedar bark, and the birch bark, all have a natural accelerant inside of them, which is why they all make good tinders. This is kind of a combination of surface area with accelerant, where this is just extreme surface area up here on 1 and 2. Dog fennel and vine hairs are more in this category, but they don't have as much surface area, so they're kind of in the honorable mention category there. But they don't make bad tinder if that's all you can find. You might just have to strike your ferro rod and kind of shave it. If you shave that ferro rod without making it spark into your pile of tinder, you can make it a lot harder and get a lot more sustained sparks from it. So anyway, there's my top 5 with a couple of honorable mentions. Top 5 tinders. It's thistledown. This stuff right here, I'd call it the number 1 tinder. It goes up like gasoline, but it doesn't last very long. So if you combine this with some other tinders, you're almost guaranteed a flame. It works amazing though. This is just a thistle that's been knocked over, but it's full of this down, as you can see, and it works really well. Here's a big wad of it right here. Big old wad of thistle down right there. It almost looks like fur, but that's probably the number 1 stuff if you can find it. But this stuff is awesome. Essentially, and again, I'm not from here, but as soon as I saw this, I thought it would be a good tinder just based on the surface area of it. And that's what you're looking for. Anytime you look for a tinder, you're looking for surface area. So it doesn't really matter what area I go to, if I know the name of this grass or not. I looked at it and knew that it would be a good tinder just based on how fine those hairs are right there. So the grass top, these are the seed heads of whatever type of grass this is. It makes an excellent tinder. This is called a river birch here. It doesn't get quite as shaggy as a paper birch, but it's still pretty shaggy. This grows down here in the south. I don't know how far up north it grows, but it's all over down here, and it grows in kind of swampy bottoms. Here's the creek that I skinned the turtle on that you saw in a previous video of mine. There's another big piece of lighter knot right there. Right there. There's another piece of lighter knot. But it's all over around here. But there's a stream, and there's river birches quite a bit in this area. Quite a, you know, it's, I don't know, there's probably 30 of them right here in this area. Tree. And I'm not gonna peel any bark off just because it's still a live tree, and I'm just for demo's sake. But what you'll do is you'll take that bark off of that cedar right there, off the trunk, and it'll come off in a long strip. And when you get that long strip off, you'll just take that and you kind of process it in your hand by taking your hand, or both your hands like this, and you just kind of move it in a circle around in your hand, and eventually it'll break up, the fibers will break up, and you'll have a bunch of hairs in your hand. That's definitely top five tinders for me. This is a piece of lighter knot, and it's probably been out here longer than I've been alive. But lighter knot is any type of pine that's been impregnated with resin to the point where it won't rot away. The entire rest of this log has rotted away, and eventually this will too, but it'll be after I'm dead. There's another big piece of it right over here. Okay, this area was probably logged eons ago, and here's a real big piece of lighter knot here. Real heavy stuff. But there's the outside of lighter knot. Let me set up this camera real quick, and I'll show you the inside of it. Now if you can see that vein right there, that's all impregnated with resin, and it still smells just like turpentine. Okay, there's another real soaked piece right there, but if you shave this and real fine hairs, it'll take a spark from a ferrocerium rod fairly easily. But you just fuzz that up a little bit, just like that.